here today with the amazing Nat Cassidy. Nat is an award-winning actor, novelist, playwright, and director. His acclaimed novels, including When the Wolf Comes Home, which was a USA Today bestseller and called a classic by none other than Stephen King, Mary, An Awakening of Terror, which was one of Audible's top 100 horror novels of all time, Nestlings, and Rest Stop, which was a Bram Stoker Award nominee, have been featured in Best of lists from Esquire, Harper's Bazaar, NPR, the Chicago Review of Books, the New York Public Library, Amazon, and more. And he was named one of the writers shaping horror's next golden age by Esquire. Welcome, Nat.
Hello, how are you? It's so nice to finally meet you.
You too. And I obviously you can tell from that bio, you are a big deal, but I'm sure I left some things out. So tell me what I missed.
No. That is there you missed nothing because there's nothing more embarrassing than sitting through your own bio. Just like, oh God, it's all I need to trim that down.
Yeah, it's my job to hype you up.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. No, you missed nothing. That's all there is to know about me. I'm a Libra. That's
okay. That was not in the bio. That's worth knowing.
it.
Well, how did you first get into writing and why horror of all the genres you could have picked?
The answer's kind of the same for both of them, actually. Like it just kind of always was so. I grew up. I was a morbid little kid for as long as I was aware, or at least as long as I'm aware of my own consciousness. Like the best way to get me to pay attention was usually to tell me a scary story or a ghost story or something like that, something macabre. And I was also, again, for like as long as I have been online as a conscious entity, uh, I was obsessed with story and with storytelling, and I was also just a super precocious little child actor from like 5 years old, and always gravitated towards telling stories and consuming stories and deconstructing stories and watching how stories affected other people. And so that combination of loving the macabre and loving storytelling just kind of naturally also then meant that as soon as I could write, was basically just scribbling, you know, embarrassing, not very structurally sound, let's say, short stories and attempted novels and things like that, from the earliest age. And they were almost always, well, not even almost always, they were always horror stories. They were almost always like direct Stephen King ripoffs, which is, I guess, part of the origin story as well. My mom was a huge horror fan, and this was the 80s and 90s, so our bookshelves were always full of Stephen King, who was her favorite writer, and Dean Koontz and Anne Rice and Clive Barker and Robin Cook and Michael Crichton, just like all the genre mainstays of the paperback age. And so those were the books that were kind of aspirational to me. She was a single mom, a single working mom, who also had MS. So she took like a very laissez-faire approach to the stuff that my brother and I would read. She was basically like, you can read these whenever you feel ready for them. Just don't come crying to me if you have nightmares, because I don't have the time or the energy. So she kind of left it up to us to figure out when we thought we were ready for them. And as soon as I thought I was ready for them, which I was about 8 or 9 years old, and that just kind of gave me the map that I immediately knew I wanted to follow. I wanted to write stories like that. I wanted to tell stories like that. And then as an actor, I was obsessed with like Shakespeare and things like that, which is basically he's basically a horror writer in his own right. So it was like I want to perform in these stories and I want to write these stories, and there was no looking back.
That's awesome. I was also a morbid little kid, and my parents had
Yeah.
a very similar approach. I was reading it in the fourth grade, and my teacher was concerned, and he brought it up at
Uh-huh.
a teacher conference. It's like, is she okay? Should she be reading this? And my mom was like, she is reading a chapter book. Good for her.
Yeah. You like a fourth grader reading an 1,100-page novel? That's amazing. That
It
should be
scarred me only a
celebrated.
little.
Just
Only a
a
little.
little.
Yeah. Pennywise is still one of my favorite characters of all time.
But then, I mean, you look at the like alternative, and like
Mhm.
The Yearling is traumatizing. Shel
Mhm.
Silverstein poems are
Mhm.
traumatizing. Disney movies are traumatizing. Like they're, especially in the 80s and 90s, it seemed like children's entertainment was specifically like required to have at least one scene that would mess somebody up for the rest of their lives. Like it was, there's nothing to be afraid of traumatizing your kid with stories.
Mhm.
It builds character.
I agree. I mean, I thought Where the Red Fern Grows was far more traumatizing than any
Yeah.
Stephen King I read.
Oh my god, that book.
It's horrible. Well, what is your writing process like? Do you get started with the characters, the plot, the setting? What kind of comes to you first?
For a second, I thought you were going to ask what my writing schedule was going to be, and I would just start weeping because I still don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. Process wise, I tend to. I'm a kind of former. I'm a recovering playwright.
Mm,
So I still kind of approach things through a similar uh, lens in a way. I usually don't start writing a thing, especially a longer form thing, until sort of three elements have clicked in place. Um, the sort of tropes I want to play with,
mm,
uh, the um, the sort of ending, like the theme that I want it to aim for, and then usually the most important thing is then also who is the central character that is probably the worst person to go through this subversion of a trope. And then once I have that in place, that is when I can start kind of understanding the shape of it. And I tend to be a very structure based writer. Again, coming from playwriting, which is very there's a lot of flexibility with form and playwriting and stuff like that, but it still has a lot of uh, uh, sort of a hangover from
mhm,
Aristotelian dynamics, and so like that also it, affects my non playwriting work. Just kind of thinking of those Aristotelian sort of questions, and
mhm,
what it Freytag's triangle, and all of these things that we learned in theater school. And there's another element about horror in particular that I think lends itself to that. In that, like
mhm,
horror, uh, especially in the shorter form, but I think it applies to the longer form as well. Uh, Horror is a very satisfyingly structured genre.
mhm,
There's many reasons why horror and humor have so much in common, and one of those is that they're all about structure and then subversion. You can't have the
mhm,
subversion without the structure. And like just as a one of myriad examples, you look at like a Tales from the Crypt story,
mhm,
which is basically just like it's a complete joke structure. You got the setup, and then you got the punchline, and the punchline is usually like some moral judgment that is like an ironic twist on the main character's sin, and that's one of the reasons why I often will think of horror from a structured perspective, even if it's a longer form story, because you're just kind of always looking for what is the setup and what is the punchline. What is that horror trying to deliver? What is it trying to subvert? How is it specifically trying to unsettle the reader?
mhm,
And you can't really know what you're trying to unsettle unless you know what settled looks like, and you can't know what settled looks like without that ideal sort of structure in mind
mhm.
anyway, if that makes sense. I'm
Yeah, it does.
as I warned you when we were off mic, I've been snow shoveling all morning, so synapses are firing at will.
No, that all makes a lot of sense, and I won't ask about your writing schedule, but I do wanna know if you have any sort of writing rituals, like music you have to listen to, a beverage, food, anything like that.
I need to find all that. I don't, and I'm suffering because of it. This is my first year where I'm just a full-time writer. I've never not had a day job for my entire life. And so I have more time to write, and it's so hard. I'm so much better with like, oh, I only have like 2 hours to write. I better write right now. So I'm
Mhm,
trying to figure out how to impose that sort of back to structure, impose that structure onto my schedule as well. So I need to find the rituals. I need to find the beverages and stuff like that. I do
Mhm.
have right on my desk right now. I have a candle because I know Rachel Harrison likes to light a candle when she starts writing. I
Mhm.
have not done it yet. I've had this candle sitting here for weeks now. So I'm very good at embracing ideas and not implementing them. But I'm going to get better at implementing them. That's my promise to you. That is a
Okay.
podcast exclusive. I'm going
I'm
to
gonna
have a
hold you to
damn
that.
schedule. Please do.
I get that though. I was way more efficient when I was working an office job, and then
Yeah.
when my kids were really little and I would write when they were napping, now they're
Yeah.
in school and I have 8 hours, and it
What do you
feels
do?
so long. I
Yeah.
find things to fill it up with, but I set a weekly writing goal, which helps
Mm.
me a lot. I write 10,000 words a week, and that really helped me. So,
Yeah. Oh, that's
just a
great.
thought.
Yeah. I'm trying to do 1,000 words a day. Um,
Mhm,
and I have noticed that the days where I am like, but I'm also going to stop writing at 11 a.m. Those are
mhm,
the days that I tend to actually hit that goal. And if I'm like, I
mhm.
have all day to write, then it's like, I wrote 400 words and I feel like garbage.
Yeah, no, it's definitely hard. Finding a schedule is not easy.
No, no, especially when it's all up to you. Writing is so stupid. It's just so stupid. We're all so stupid.
Well, I would love to talk about When the Wolf Comes Home. It was one of my favorite books of, well, all time, really. I loved it. And
Well,
I know
thank
I'm
you.
not the only one who feels that way. So, can you just talk a little bit about it and what inspired you to write that book?
Yeah, that's very kind of you. Thank you for reading it. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. It is, kind of what I was already rambling about as far as like subversion and stuff like that goes. That's one of my favorite things to do with a story, and it's also kind of one of my favorite things to do in a more macro sense.
Mhm.
So every time I start a new project, it tends to, for my own latent ADHD, need to be a kind of subversion of whatever came before it. It needs to be like
Mhm.
it needs to be a kind of macro twist, which is sometimes ill-advised, but it keeps me on my toes. And so I wrote When the Wolf Comes Home kind of directly in response to the previous things I had just written, which were Nestlings and a novella called Rest Stop, which were very set bound, kind of slow burn. Well, I guess Rest Stop is less slow burn tempo wise, but they were both very claustrophobic sort of
Mhm.
stories. And so I really wanted to tell something that was a chase novel. I wanted now to see if the sort of claustrophobia of nestlings, if I could find a fear in a story that was basically like the whole world
Mhm.
was at your disposal. Like you were basically running as far as the map would allow. You weren't stuck in this apartment or in this bathroom, but instead you were being literally chased across the continent. And that combined with a very, very, very old sort of story fragment of a project that I had first kind of dabbled with around 13 or 14, and a love of werewolves and shapeshifters and things like that, and a desire to also tell a story that was basically about fear itself
Mhm.
and the differences between the way we experience fear as children and the way we experience fear as adults, and just kind of dump all my neuroses into what was as propulsive
Mhm.
a format as I could find, just to show the people who were like Mary and Nestlings were slow burn. I was like, well, I'll show you. I write a lot of spite. That's the long and short of
I get that. Horror's my therapy. If something makes me
it.
mad, I'm just gonna write
Oh,
about it.
totally. Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
There have been many times when I have gone through like traumatic experiences, and that voice in the back of your head that's like, "Ooh, how do we turn this into a story? How do we compartmentalize this?"
Mhm. Yeah, nobody's really mean to me for that reason because they know they're gonna
Yeah.
end up in a book. Well, you've got your newest work, I Know a Place. It comes out today. Can you
Mm,
talk about that collection?
I can certainly try. You're the first person I'm speaking to about it.
Woohoo!
So let's see. Let's learn in real time. Yeah, this is a short story collection. It's my first short story collection. It includes the novella Rest Stop, which I was just briefly alluding to, which is a kind of It was sort of my homage to extreme horror. I wanted a sort of, extreme scenario, and uh, some cringy, not cringy like cringy, but like the sort of gore that will make you cringe.
Mhm.
I wanted it to be just kind of viscerally upsetting. And so it's a story about a guy trapped in a bathroom, fighting snakes and spiders and other awful things. And then it is complemented by 12 other stories, so it's 13 stories all told, because of course, and they run the gamut from nasty little Tales from the Crypty inspired, darkly humorous little shock tales, to some experimental stuff, to some sci-fi, to there's an experimental theater piece in it. There are a
Mm.
couple of true crimey stories. There are a couple of stories that maybe aren't the kind of horror you think they'll be. They might even be kind of hopeful. I love short stories collections so much. They were some of like the most influential things for me as a young reader and writer, and I wanted to pay homage to that with this collection. Like the short story collections, like uh, of course I'm always going to go back to Stephen King because that's what I do. But Night Shift and Skeleton Crew and Nightmares and Dreamscapes in particular were hugely influential books to me, to the point where like I would fall asleep listening to those books on tape all the time from when I was a little kid through college. So not only those particular stories, but the array of them, the variety of them, has always been this kind of North Star to me, and I wanted to kind of do my version of that with this collection. So every story is still, very much the sort of horror that I like to tell, which is very character based and is very suspenseful and structure bound. But there's still plenty of room for zigs and zags and unexpected surprises and stuff like that. And I'm incredibly excited about it. I hope people enjoy it. I will say, short story collections are weird, especially these days. Like there's kind of a love-hate relationship with them in the industry. It seems like
Mhm.
people are kind of cautioned to not do them because they don't always sell well, and they can sometimes be a hard sell for a wider audience. But I have been very, very gratified that on Goodreads and NetGalley and the other sites that I absolutely should not be checking, uh, it seems like no one can agree on what the best stories are, and that to me is
Mhm.
that's me patting myself on the back. Like for every review that's like I loved these stories and hated these stories, there's someone else who's saying I hated these stories and I loved these stories, and they're all different. So I think I can objectively say there's something for everybody in
Mhm.
this mix. Hopefully you'll love them all, but even if you don't, it'll be worth it.
Well, for your first time talking about it, I think you did a great job.
Was that okay? Do you think I
Yes,
did I
I
sell some
already
copies?
wanted to read it, but now I do.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you didn't beat me to the punch on this next question because I know you got the blurb from Stephen King for When the Wolf Comes Home, but now he's writing the foreword to this collection. How does that feel?
um, very weird in the best of ways. It is. I'm still kind of processing it, and that will probably be true for the rest of my life. It is the highest honor I could ever imagine. I mean, it's literally a dream come true. I first started sending stuff to him when I was around 13. I would unsolicitedly mail him. I mailed him the first chapters of Mary, my first book, when I first attempted writing that as a preteen. I would send him short stories and stuff like that, and they would always get sent back. Of course they would, because you can't send authors, let alone the most popular author in the world, unsolicited material. But like that hunger for his attention, his approval was just kind of hardwired in me as a weird little kid. And that hunger has grown into something far more mature and professional, but like the desire for that stamp of approval has just kind of always been there as long as I've been a storyteller. This is someone who is to say he's the most influential writer to me is kind of underplaying it. Like
Mm.
I've read everything he's ever published and then some, and would just like study his work when I was a little kid. Um, and that includes his nonfiction. That includes his intros and his essays. And back when he was writing for Entertainment Weekly, I would get all of those articles, just like all of his nonfiction stuff as well. And so I was trying to tell him this in an email when he sent the forward to me. And I was, I was trying to put it as concisely as possible to not send him just like this vomitous email falling over myself with gratitude. But I was trying to explain to him how like that nonfiction has always meant to me as much as his fiction, and it was for as long as I've been able to have professional dreams about my profession. Um, the idea that he might write, even if it was just like a couple paragraphs about something I have written, has been like paramount among those dreams. And it is a very kind of shocking thing when something like that happens. I don't know if it's just me, if I'm uniquely ill-equipped to metabolize unambiguously good news, or if it's just kind of writer neuroses writ large. But like it is, um, it's as you can tell, it's kind of a hard thing for me to even know how to talk about because I'm kind of like, it was easier in those periods in the interim period where he agreed to do it and before he sent it in, because then I could be like, well, it might not happen, like don't get too invested in it. It's amazing that he said yes in the first place, but he's a busy man, and now that like it exists and it's we have it, I can read it. Yeah, it is. I feel a little bit like I've been punched in the face, not in a bad way, just kind of like oh, all right. Now what do I feel neurotic about? I have plenty of other things to feel neurotic about. Don't worry, but this one I can't. And
Maybe you'll channel it into your next book.
maybe I have ideas. I always have ideas. So maybe. Yeah, but I'm extraordinarily grateful, and I will say, as amazing as the intro is, and even just like the blurb for Wolf was, the other side of it too is that like, I remember when the blurb for Wolf came out. I'll never forget this. That I was literally on a therapy call when it was happening, and so like I noticed that my phone was blowing up with people being like, "Oh my god, did you check social media? How do you feel? How do you feel?" And that to me means as much, if not even more so, than my hero saying nice things about me. Just kind of the visualization and the realization of how wonderful this community is and how supportive everyone is and how delighted everyone else was for me. Like it's just one of those things that it means more than I could possibly say. And I love how the horror community kind of writ large celebrates everybody's wins and kind of embraces everybody. Like it's a very special group of people that we're in, and I'm just immensely gratified to be here with you and with everyone else who even cares to know how I feel about this little thing.
Well, I don't think it's a little thing, but I do definitely agree with you. The horror, such nice people. And I think
Mm-hmm.
part of it is because we're getting out all of our issues by reading and writing horror. So we just can
Mm-hmm.
just be nice to each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And we're all fans too. Like horror as a genre and as a sort of de facto niche means that like none of us are writing this because we're like, trying to cash in on a trend or something like this. Like we all love horror and we all celebrate horror. And when we read horror that we like, we're immediately fans of those creators. So like we're all just kind of becoming fans of each other too. I know a lot of other writers in other communities, and none of them are like horror. Like horror really is like this unique little love fest that I'm very grateful to be in. We're the best. Horror's the best.
Yes. Yes, I couldn't agree more. Well, how would you categorize your type of horror? Because they've all been pretty different. I mean, Mary was very
Mm.
different from Rest Stop, which was also very different from When the Wolf Comes Home. So if you had to pick a couple of words to describe your style, what would you say?
Hmm. Um, can I go back to stealing from Stephen King? Because I'm
Sure.
gonna. You can't
Yeah.
stop me. It always resonated with me that he describes his kind of horror as suspense, and it's usually supernatural suspense. But it is you can boil his entire bibliography down to they're all works of suspense, and I really like that. I relate to that as well. Character based, often supernatural suspense. I like that because uh, horror is such a broad term, and it
Mhm.
is such a massive tent. And I'll always unapologetically call myself a horror writer first and
Mm.
foremost, but I recognize that there are a lot of people who hear the word horror and immediately think of like slasher. For some, it's always
Mhm.
slasher. They always like go to slasher for some reason, or it's something that is just kind of nihilistic and violent for violence sake, and sometimes it's that, but that's a very very like sub genre of what horror can do and what horror can be. And what I like about suspense is that it almost flips it back to the reader and says, "Here's the experience you'll be getting." I like to tell horror stories where you are compelled to find out what happens next, the next paragraph,
Mm.
the next chapter, the next section, the next book. That's ultimately the goal: is to tell a story that makes people lean in and be like, even if I'm horrified, even if I don't want to know what's behind that door, I got to know what's behind that door,
Mhm.
because that implies that there is a character POV, there is there's a perspective that the reader is invested in,
Mhm.
and there's an outcome that they are compelled to experience, and
Mhm.
that's all I really want to do when I sit down to tell a horror story. There are like other like grander, broader goals, but the desire to make the reader just want to know what the hell happens next is first
Mhm.
and foremost, and to kind of experience it in an experiential sort of way. I really am drawn to horror that is, a kind of boots on the ground sort of perspective through a character or a handful of characters' perspectives, where you can understand the choices they're making, and you can kind of sense the senses that they're sensing,
Mhm.
and sort of lose yourself in the experience of it all, which also I think comes from the playwriting background too. Like, you're always, as a playwright, you are basically of necessity uh, bound to telling stories that only a human body and a human voice can portray. You can have props and effects and puppets and all that stuff, but it's all fundamentally, it has to come from the human experience of the story.
Mhm.
And so that's always kind of the angle that I'm working towards.
Well, I would say mission accomplished. I mean, I remember I
Oh,
read
thanks.
Mary and I couldn't put it down. I actually went on a walk. I walked my dog while I was reading, just walking down the street, trying to, avoid getting hit by a car. I succeeded. And when the wolf comes home, I read on an 8-hour flight delay, which made the delay much more bearable. I'll tell you
Oh
that.
man, that's the highest compliment. I'm very glad I could help. Eight
Yes, thank
hours.
you. Yes,
Oof.
it was awful. It was awful.
Oof. And when you were listening to Mary, you said you're in Savannah. Were you walking through Savannah at the time?
I wasn't. I was just walking around my neighborhood, but
Oh
people
yeah.
were looking at me. I love the cover for Mary, and everybody was looking at me and they'd see the cover and they're like, "What are you reading?" And I was like, "Let me tell you about it. Let me just tell you. It's
Ooh,
awesome.
thanks for being my street team.
I got you." Well, is there anything you wish that we saw more of in the horror book world?
That's an interesting question. Um, I hope the trend continues. Not even a trend, but I hope the last several years of what horror is doing continues, which is, again, growing up in the horror scene in the 80s and 90s. My God, was it monochromatic and monogendered array that we were given. Every now and then there'd be like, oh, here's an Anne Rice book, or here's a Clive Barker book, or something like that. But for the most part, it was just like, I'm aware of the irony of me saying this, but it was mostly just middle-aged white men telling horror stories. And I'm the this kind of golden age of horror that we're living through right now is, I think, almost entirely due to the fact that we're getting a wide array of diverse voices and experiences and cultures and styles that are all sort of exploding for readers, especially what horror can even be and what it can mean, and its merits and its values. And so I hope that continues. We're in such a strange cultural moment at the moment, where there's this sort of revanchist movement against diversity and equity and inclusion, and publishing is a business, and businesses often can respond in ways that maybe aren't as morally sound. But I am pleased that so far it seems like there's still a hunger for that in the publishing world, and I really, really hope that does not change. I hope that it doesn't fall prey to the kind of tightening that other industries might. Beyond that, like, I don't know. I love the thing I love the most about horror is how it surprises you and how it gives you the things you didn't know you wanted. So I'm hoping that there are, I feel like we've come through our vampire moment. I lost my headphones, forgive me. Back on the head. I feel like we've gone through our vampire moment. There's still vampire stuff coming out, of course, which is great. Love vampires, but like, I hope there are some more like monster renaissances that happen that we kind of can't anticipate. I'm looking forward to that. I am looking forward to we're kind of entering our AI horror phase, which is good because I'm working on a horror novel about AI right now. So I hope that trend does not dissolve before this book comes out. I kind of have a feeling it won't. We'll be living with these anxieties for a while. But I'm looking forward to seeing how authors are grappling with those questions too. Like the fact that we had Matt Serafini's great book Feeders last year, and Alma Katsu has an AI horror book coming out, and Paul Tremblay has an AI horror book coming out. Incredibly different writers who will have incredibly different perspectives on this, and so I can't wait to see all those different lights shined on all of these questions. I'm also gratified a little bit, or not gratified, but relieved in advance that books like King Sorrow or Chuck Wendig's books, or Ronald Malfi's got a book coming out, or it would have just come out, I think, by the time this airs. The Hive, these just big chonkers of books. Like, I'm hoping as everything is getting more expensive and we're all kind of watching where we spend our dollars, I hope readers are like, I'm going to buy some longer books because they're worth the investment, more bang for your buck. So I hope that continues too, because the book I'm currently writing is longer than I would want. So support long books, everybody. I don't know. What about you? What are you excited about for horror? What are you looking forward to? What do you want
I'm kind
more
of with you. I'm with you on all of that. I mean, I love a good creature feature, and I love
Yeah.
medical horror. I kind of alternate between writing those two. My next
Yeah.
book has an evil woodland fairy in it, and that's coming out in July. And I
Yeah.
just had one that came out about a lobotomy. So I love to see that kind of thing. Science and
Yeah.
horror, not necessarily science fiction, but actual medical fact. That's what I find.
Right. Yeah, because you are an epidemiologist, right? Or you were? Do you still
I
do you
am,
still
yeah.
do that? Do you still
I am, yes, I still
epidemiologize?
epidemiology.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so cool. I can't wait to have a longer conversation with you about all of that, because that is fascinating, especially in this
You.
particular moment that we are still kind of working our way out of. Yeah. That's so interesting. I love medical horror so much. I very much do. In fact, the book that I'm writing right now um, is something of a techno thriller. So I'm going through
Mm.
a sort of Michael Crichton deep reread as inspiration, and it has been such a delight to read books like The Andromeda Strain that, like,
Mhm.
it's like half science textbook, half story, and he still makes it propulsive and interesting. But my
Mhm.
God, there's so many graphs. I love a graph. That's what I want to see more. I want to see more books with graphs and printouts
Oh,
and,
I
like,
like that.
maps and things like that. Let's have some
Like mixed
supplemental material.
media.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, I
I
love that
love it.
too. Okay, we're in agreement then.
It's like I will always remember the chemical components of Billy Rubin because of Silence of the Lambs, because there was like this little printout in the middle of the text of Silence of the Lambs with CHNO. I was like, well, I'll always know the ingredients of bile. That stuff is very helpful. You never know when you'll need that.
Especially if you're on Jeopardy.
Uh
Mhm. Now you know.
huh.
Well, let me ask you, what is your best piece of advice that you've ever received in terms of writing?
Hmm. There's one that I've been coming back to lately as I am sort of, trying to figure out schedule and
Mhm.
and like time structure and stuff like that. And it I don't know if I can say it's the best, but it is kind of my current favorite. Um, and I'm forgetting where I even encountered it, or who said it, but it was that nobody writes a novel. Stop thinking of writing a novel. You build a novel, one sentence at a time, one chapter at a time, one scene at a time, one section at a time. I think for a lot of people, if had you asked me this question any other time when this wasn't rattling around in my head at the moment, my go-to is usually like, just don't stop. Like, that's
Mhm.
the best advice anyone can get, is just, you just keep doing it. um, this is a profession that rewards perseverance more than anything, because even just the experience of writing one novel is, it's filling a swimming pool with a Dixie cup. Like, you're just it's all about incrementalism. But the thing I like about then also literally removing the onus from you as the writer, of this feeling of like, how do I write a novel? I have to write this whole long damn thing. It's just so helpful to just be like, no, I just got to write this scene. Like, we'll
Mhm.
put it all together later. For now, just like, make that scene as good as you can. Don't get hung up in making it perfect. Get to the end.
Mhm.
Always get to the end. But a novel is made up of component parts, and just write that sentence, write that chapter, write that section, write that character arc, and then you will build a novel. There's just something about that that takes some of the pressure off, I think.
Mhm. I agree with you. That makes it sound far less intimidating.
Yeah.
Mhm. With
Yeah.
my
It's like,
last book, I remember thinking this is gonna be a novel or a novella, a novelette, and then it turned into a novel, and I think if I'd
yeah,
gone in thinking this is gonna be 89,000 words, I would have been more freaked out.
right. Because
Mm.
how do you do that? How do you
Mhm.
fill a story with all of those words? But it's like, it's just an IKEA cabinet. Like, you just put it together.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been fantastic.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for dealing with all my scheduling emails.
Yes, of course. And just tell everybody where they can find you and keep up with you and your work.
I'm on all of the sites. I am uh, not great at posting or responding on all of those sites. I tend to, what is it called? I post and ghost. Basically, I will post something and then run away, because I am a sort of recovering social media addict.
Mm,
And I'm like, the more time I spend on it, the more it sucks me back in.
mm,
But I'm on all of them. Uh, if it's a meta-based platform, I'm Cat Cassidy. So Threads and Instagram, and then on Blue Sky, I'm Nat Cassidy. I still have a profile on Twitter, but I don't use it. It's just kind of there to prevent anyone else from taking it. And same kind of goes for Facebook. Yeah, I'm around. I'm everywhere. I'm also still on TikTok, but I never post. I need to get better at posting on TikTok, even though it's just changed ownership, and I don't want to post on TikTok.
mm.
But you can occasionally find me there as well. Find me there, and then tell me to get off of them. Tell me to get back to work.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.